What if your story wasn't just background fluff, but it was your biggest growth asset? My guest this week is Dan Grech, a Pulitzer Prize winning journalist turned entrepreneur who has helped more than 10,000 businesses grow through story. He's going to share how you use your story as a strategic tool to attract customers, hire better talent, and to build a brand people actually connect with. So you'll hear how to become the Jedi of your client's hero journey and the four ways of storytelling that drives business growth. So if you're ready to make the story work for you, not just sitting on your about page on your website, don't miss this episode of Profit with a Plan podcast. Hey entrepreneurs, are you working too hard for too little profit? Well, welcome to Profit with a Plan podcast, where we help you scale smarter, increase profitability, and build a business that's worth more, whether you keep it or sell it. I'm Marcia, Riner, business growth strategist and the profit booster behind Infinite Profit. I've helped countless entrepreneurs to turn their businesses into highly profitable and sale-ready assets, so they enjoy more income now and a bigger payday later on. So join me for practical strategies, expert insights, and proven steps to make your business more profitable, more valuable, and built to last. Today's episode is sponsored by Infinite Profit, where we don't just talk profit, we deliver it. But before we dive in, I have something special for you. If you're tired of flat revenue and marketing that just doesn't seem to pay off, then the new Profit Booster Growth Map is for you. In just a few minutes, it'll show you exactly how you can bring in more qualified clients, plug the profit leaks that are eating your cash. So get your profit growth map right now at profitbooster.biz and start turning missed revenue into real money. All right, let's jump into today's episode. Today, I'm joined by Dan Grech, a Pulitzer Prize winning NPR and PBS journalist turned entrepreneur and educator. Dan is the creator of the story-driven business methodology, where he helps founders and business leaders to use their story as a strategic growth asset, not just a piece of marketing fluff. Through his company, BizHack Academy, he has trained more than 10,000 businesses in the AI-powered marketing and story-driven growth. He's testified before Congress on the role of AI in small business, taught at Princeton in Columbia and the University of Miami, and his upcoming book, Your Story is Your Business, will soon be published in 2027. Today, we're talking about how to turn your story into a real business advantage to drive revenue, attract people, and grow with more purpose. Dan, welcome to Profit with a Plan. I'm so glad you're on today.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here.
Yeah, me too. I love this idea of storytelling. Marketing is changing. It's such a crazy pace right now, especially with AI and all the videos. I think people forget that there should be a story behind it, right? And that's why I was so excited to have you on today to talk about this. But before we get into the actual conversation, I'd love to dig just a hair more into Pulitzer Prize and journalism with some really big names. How did you get into that space?
Yeah. Well, here's my own origin story, and I teach businesses to do this as well. It starts in junior year of high school, and I took an elective to be in the school paper, and I was a reporter. And one of the very first stories I did was based on a personal experience that I had had, having money stolen out of my wallet while I was in gym class. But it was like it was a weird crime because it was like the wet bandits, from Home Alone, where they turn on the faucet to signal the crime. And then they makes it really easy for the police to figure out who did it. Well, this particular bandit would steal only 20s and 10s and leave fives and ones. And so I opened my wallet, and I was a kind of
Wait
a
a minute, high school with 20s? I mean, there's a disconnect right here.
oh
How
well,
many high
see,
school
I was
kids carry
selling blow
20s?
pops. I was selling blow pops from when
Oh,
I
got
was
it.
in. I'm like a classic entrepreneur. I was like selling blow pops, making hundreds of dollars. Had like wads of ones,
Uh,
because I sold them at a quarter each. But I did have a few 20s tucked away. And that's why I kind of noticed when the 20s went missing. The other thing is I was in a ritzy neighborhood, but I was the poorest kid on the block. They used to literally, I was known in my school as the rich poor kid. My mother was a public school teacher. My dad was a clothing salesman with no college degree, and they were all doctors and lawyers' kids. So here I am selling blow pops, and I always had money, and they never did. And so I go to gym class and I walk out of gym class and all my ones are still there, but my 20s are missing. And I noticed. So
mm.
when I'm in journalism class, I start to do a little bit of an investigation. I asked all my friends an initial survey, and more than half of them had already had also had money stolen. And then I did a school-wide survey, and 40% of freshmen who had arrived 2 months prior had also had money stolen from them. More than three-quarters of the school had money stolen from them. So I published the results of this, my one of my first articles, and 2 weeks later, the head of campus security was fired.
Oh no. Wow.
Yes. And he was one of
Wow.
the people I interviewed for my article. But anyway, obviously I wasn't the one who like figured out who was doing the stealing, but it was rampant. And once that happened, and I remember seeing everybody reading my article, I was just hooked.
I love it. I
And
love it.
you
A
know,
classic storyteller you are right out of the get-go. You come in with a great high school story that we've all probably experienced one way or at a time. But did you ever figure out who caught it? Was it the security guy or was it a kid?
well, it was the security guard, the head of campus security who I interviewed for the story. But I didn't figure out that it was him. It was this principal who did. But it was very clear that it was someone with because almost all the stealing was happening during gym class, and the gym doors were locked.
Ah, got it.
So it had to
Wow.
be someone with a key or some way to get into the gym. And
How funny.
it was pretty obvious in retrospect. I didn't figure that part out. Who would have thought the head of campus security would be the one doing something like that?
Right,
And
especially at your freshman year at age 15, or you were junior year, you were like 16 or something, who would have thought to put those dots together?
yeah. So anyway, it was really and then I did journalism in college to pay for my books. They assigned me to wash dishes. I'm like, forget this. So I used to do freelancing to pay for my books and have a little bit of pocket money, and then got internships out of college at the Washington Post, Boston Globe, the Miami Herald, and just went, 20-year career from there. Just very,
Love it.
very fortunate. And this was at a time, journalism wasn't like flourishing, but it certainly wasn't where it is today, where it's just really struggling. And I just had just the most amazing time. Was a foreign correspondent, was part of a Pulitzer Prize, and it really seeded where I've arrived to today, which is around storytelling. So I don't have an MBA, I have an MFA. I like to think of myself as like I'm the poorest kid on the block of business as well. In that, like, what I know about business, I primarily learned by reading, books in the last 10 years, and then of course practicing, being a business owner, and learning by doing. And the
Yeah.
thing that happened, that like really seeded this business is. I realized when I lost my job in journalism that I needed to reinvent and I wanted to reinvent as a business storyteller. And so I said, okay, I want to be a business storyteller. And they're like, yeah, that's called marketing. I'm like, yeah, that's what I want to do. And then I'm like, yeah, but it should be online, right? Because that's where everything is these days. They're like, damn, that's called digital marketing. And I'm literally writing down in my notebook, digital marketing. That's how clueless I was. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to go spend a few weeks. I'll go learn digital marketing, right? Like, completely had no idea what I was talking about. And obviously, here I am, still learning to this day. But what happened is the best way that I have found to learn is by teaching.
Mm,
And so I started teaching at the local community college, marketing for small businesses, and learned so much in, having to stand in front of a class and pretend I knew what I was talking about. And, first thing I did was hire a co-instructor, like I kind of stumbled my way through it for a few years until I figured it out. And then I built a whole business around teaching marketing to businesses called BizHack Academy. And one of the things that I kept noticing as I was working with these businesses is you would speak to this entrepreneur, Marcia, and they were just this vivid, larger than life character. And then you would read their website and it was like de-peopled. It was just a service or a
Yep.
product. It was no human behind it.
Mm.
And so it just started from that basic curiosity of like, who are you and why do you do this? And then the next step is like, and why don't you put that on your website?
Exactly, right? So many people don't know how to build a website that, I mean, and way back when websites were just glorified business cards anyways or brochures, right? And now they're actually, product solutions and offers and pieces and moving parts that you have to have so much more to it. But I think the thing that has stuck from way back when website building and so on about is that about us page is because buyers still want to know who they're buying from and why they want you over the, multi numbers of people that are out there doing the same thing as you.
We buy from people, we do business with people we like and trust.
Mhm.
And that
Exactly.
human element has always been true and will never go away. And there's this beautiful line by Patty Digg, Digh, and it's the shortest distance between two people is a story.
I love it. I love it. Okay, so let's talk about stories then. How does one craft one to really bring out the best parts of them in a way that now we're talking marketing stories, right? In a way that the buyer connects.
Yeah. So, I call marketing and sales or customer acquisition, selling to strangers. And so what
Mhm.
you really need to do is use, your communications, first digital and then in person, live, they can be done over a Zoom, but, the sales call, so to speak, they need to basically, as quickly as possible, establish trust and
Mm.
credibility. And story is one of the most powerful techniques and one of the fastest ways to establish trust and credibility. Now, there are other really important ways as well. Social proof, case
Testimonials.
studies and testimonials. There's, your credentials. Who you've worked for and other folks you've done this for, and then there's story. Why you do what you do and why it matters. And so that's what we do is we help businesses identify their business story, why they do what they do and why it matters, and then articulate it in the way that's most likely to get someone to convert from a stranger to a sale.
That sounds amazing, but not easily done, right?
No.
That's
There's
why
two
we need
parts.
people like you and your courses and your programs to help people understand how to articulate that. I mean, I swear, I you get these people that know their jam, right? They know their widget they're selling or the service. They could be the best attorney or the best plumber or whatever it is that they are out there. But then when they come to public speaking or talking and describing what it is and why that the value is
Mm,
really coming with me, they fall flat on their face every time.
yeah. About 80% of businesses, according to surveys, are what are known as technicians.
Mm,
And this is talked a lot about by Michael Gerber in the E-Myth Revisited. But a
exactly.
technician is like in his book, he talks about the baker of pies, right? And the baker of pies used to work for someone else's bakery, and they got tired of working for someone else's bakery. So then they, what does he call it? Like they had an entrepreneurial spasm, and then they started their own business. They took the leap, and then they realized that they are the worst boss they've ever had.
And the worst employee.
Yeah, and the worst employee. Like they would fire each other if they could.
Exactly. In a heartbeat.
And so the core, of being a business person is not doing the thing; it's acquiring the customer. Like
Hmm.
the last seat that a CEO leaves vacant is the sales seat,
Oh,
and
right. Which is the
yeah,
most important part of the entire company.
yeah,
That paired with marketing, right?
yeah.
It's it's everything.
It's the core of your job, but it's not what you came into it doing. Like most of
Mm.
us are technicians. Like I started a training company and I was a teacher at the local community college. You know what I mean? And,
Right.
many people are like, they're a plumber and they start a plumbing company. They're a roofer and they start a roofing company. And only 20% of business owners are what he calls entrepreneurs, who
Mm.
are like the people who work on the business, not in it.
Sure.
So the
And
the trick,
that's what's so funny because that's my jam is I love doing that kind of stuff, but it's so funny. I meet the people that are the technicians all the time, and I'm sharing with them ideas and directions and goals and things like that that they just go, "Yeah, that's a great idea," but they have no idea or the ability to actually implement it, which evolved my company over the last 2 years where I'm actually helping companies to implement now
I love
because they
that.
can't do it. They just
Yeah.
as much as they want it. I mean, the step by step is right in front of them, and they still can't do it.
Yeah. So most of these folks that you and I work with are not themselves marketers or
Correct.
salespeople. They are people who have figured it out through trial and error. What they are is the doers, the technician, the operator. So
Mhm.
generally, small businesses are really good at operating in a really like intimate, customer friendly way. If they weren't good at that, they would never have stayed in business. But they're not good at growing the business.
Mhm.
And that's what I'm trying to provide is like a simple framework to leverage your most unique asset. So most small businesses are what I call Me Too businesses,
Mm.
meaning there are a whole raft of competitors that look more or less the same.
Yep.
And what I'm trying to do is turn them from a Me Too business to a story-driven business,
Oh, I love it.
where the unique
Are your podcast guest appearances leading to real business, or are you just hoping that listeners will take action? With the Profit Booster Podcast Monetization Hub, we turn your interviews into lead generating machines so that you capture, nurture, and convert listeners into paying clients. So stop leaving money on the table and get started today at profitboosterpod.com.
and very personal reasons for doing what they do and the larger mission that they have are at the very center of all of their communications and their customer experience and their hiring. It's like the story driven business is more than just one that uses like pretty language around marketing, but it actually hires around the same values that it articulates in its marketing, that it uses when it's building relationships in the community. And also, the fourth dimension, which is really powerful, Marcia, is mindset and the
Mm,
owner and how they feel about their business. Like so many business owners feel trapped in a prison of their own making.
yes,
And the
exactly.
yeah, and the key to get out, I believe, is reminding yourself regularly why you're doing what you're doing and why it
Mm.
matters.
Okay, so you've hit on a real solid reason on why we want to have this storytelling in our business so that way we can keep ourselves motivated, right?
Hmm.
And not feel trapped in our company, but we can hire better people that feel the same way and can help move the boulder up the hill, right? And also so that our clients or our prospective clients will choose us in that Me Too environment. So you've done a great job at explaining that, but now I'm going to trick you. I'm going to make you come to the table with something. You mentioned a framework. Give me a highlight or a peek into your framework on how you help companies to build that story.
Yeah. So it's a three-step process. And the first step is discover and define. The second step is to build that story driven framework. And then sort of the story to strategy. And then the third is the ignite, where then you use it in all communication. So let's start with the first stage, which is the define. So the discover and define. Many business owners have never written down their story. And the discover and define is getting it written down for sometimes the first time. And the reason this is important is twofold. You cannot use it as a strategic growth asset if it's not written down.
Mm.
So my big belief is that your story is one of the most powerful assets you have, but you can't use an asset if it's not actually documented. The
Ah,
other
thousand
reason
percent. Because
Yeah,
then how can you get your salespeople or your staff to believe in it if it's stuck up in your head, right?
exactly. And the objection I hear all the time is the customer is the hero objection. And it's all about them. And I want to be clear, like I really agree with the idea that you always want to communicate with prospects and customers from their perspective. But you are the CEO, the chief energy officer
Mm,
of your company, and the source energy of your CEO role comes from your values and your personal history.
mm.
So let's document that. And then, oh, by the way, in the age of AI, you can then train the AI. Once that story is written down, you can train the AI on it. Because
Amazing.
this is really important because I want to talk to you. AI knows a lot, and AI is probably a smarter, better writer than most of us. But there are a couple things AI doesn't know. They don't know about our lived experiences. They don't know our life anecdotes. They don't know our unique observations. They don't know our hard-won insights.
Mm.
So that's the define and discover is
I love it.
we need to
So,
get that down and
so
tell them.
So there are many ways, I know a lot of business owners, they're like, I don't have time for this, right? I'm chasing customers and putting out fire. But it could be done in version one in and after Friday afternoon, right? I mean, with today's
Absolutely.
technology, you can even voice to text this and tell your story and kind of work it through in your own process and then give it to the AI to clean it up and make it look and sound, reasonable, like linear and story driven. So I don't think I think the answer or the problem, the Heisman that we would give in years past was I didn't have time. But now it's so darn easy. It's silly not to have it.
Yeah, it's um, for the define phase, leveraging AI as like a thought partner, and we actually have built a virtual biographer who basically does exactly what you described, which is helps you by asking those questions.
Love it.
And we'll talk at the end a little bit about how they can get connected up to the virtual biographer and so forth. But I
Love it.
don't so AI can help with the defining, but
Perfect.
the next stage is deploy, right? So stage two is, all right, I have this story, but how do I connect that to business strategy?
Right.
How do I make money with this? How do I connect this to growth? And that
Love it.
is actually very um, harder in some ways than developing the story because what I have found with more than 1,000 business owners I've worked with is once they have the story, they don't know where to put it. Right
Right.
after you get through the obvious answers, which is on your website about page, on your LinkedIn about, in your social media bio, and it often kind of stops there. But I'll give you like a really concrete example. I was talking to one of my clients, and he has a conference coming up a week from Friday, and
Mm,
he wants to come in there at his prepared best. And the way for him to be at his prepared best is to have a script of what is he going to say in the 30-second or 1 minute that he meets a new prospect.
right. Times 1,000 if he's at a conference, right?
So we're going to develop a story-driven script about
Nice.
why he does what he does and why it matters to make that initial great first impression, to
I
get
love
that
it.
business card to then follow up with a sales call. And then when the sales call happens, they talk about why they do what they do and why it matters as part of the deck. And it then becomes not just this one-off, but this consistent deployment. And so that's what
I
phase
love that.
phase two is about is deploying it. And it also should be consistent with like how you talk about yourself on social media should be the exact have the same core values as how you hire.
So give me a brief example because oftentimes like when I get a new client and I'm onboarding them, I'm like, okay, so tell me in your words what you do. Oh, well, I'm a chiropractor. And
Yeah.
I mean, they label themselves rather than telling a story. So can you give us a brief example about how that little 30-second commercial might come together?
Yeah, I'm a chiropractor. I'm somebody who like presses on your back until it makes a cracking noise, or that's like the what I do. Uh, you know,
Right.
I I'm a chiropractor. I help people move without pain so they can live their best life.
Love it.
Do you know what I
Love it.
mean?
Yeah,
So it's really that's the Simon Sinek. People don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it.
exactly.
That's the move. And that's a leadership principle, right? So he primarily did it as a way to like be a visionary and get people to follow you, but it's also a sales principle, right? It's a marketing and
Mhm.
sales principle, which is ultimately the reason we exist as businesses is to solve a pain that our client is having. And
Exactly.
so the idea is you are in business to help solve pain for people like them so that they can live a better version of their lives.
Mm.
My favorite example of this is they're called the Greater Need. They're a bagel shop in
Oh,
outside of Philadelphia where I
oh,
grew up.
need. Okay,
Exactly.
cool.
So
I was like,
yeah,
wait a
so
minute.
need like Knead, but
Right.
obviously this is like more this is a purpose-driven bagel shop, as you can tell from their name. So the larger need that they're fulfilling is the founder's family had celiac
Oh,
and he
oh,
want and they wanted to break bread together literally, but they couldn't do
oh.
it over normal glutinous bread. So she created a gluten-free bagel recipe that became the Greater Need Bakery. And so yeah, it's like
What an amazing story, right? And that's it. That's the piece that I think a large number, I don't even know the percentage of it, but a large number of businesses don't have. That's why this story is so important that you have to go, "Oh, that's cool. Oh, that's cute. Oh, wait. Aw, right? I fell into your story and I'm totally committed into buying her bagels because of the story you presented."
yeah, and it's hilarious because when you read her website, you realize that she has a larger purpose than just selling bagels or bagel chips. It's she is part of what is known in the industry as the free from movement. So free
Mm,
from adulterants, free from gluten, free
sure.
from any
The
toxins.
differentiator.
Yeah, and so it's a differentiator, like she's a gluten-free bagel, but it's also like she's playing at something way bigger than selling bagel chips.
Mm.
She is part of a movement to allow people to be able to eat food that doesn't make them sick
Ugh.
and to allow them to share that food without fear or worry with their family.
'Cause their family can may be able to eat gluten, but then, she's sitting there not having any bread, but now she can share with them, and it's probably so tasty that their family doesn't even realize it's gluten-free, right?
My wife is gluten free, and for years we just didn't eat pizza as a
Ugh,
family. And then now,
pizza.
over the last couple of years, like gluten free pizza has become a thing, and now we get to have pizza again.
Cauliflower crust, yep.
And it's funny, like I grew up every Friday having pizza night in my family, and literally for years with my now family, we couldn't have pizza night because, and it's like pizza night is seriously one of my favorite memories growing up. And I have such
Sure.
vivid memories of going to Bala Pizza in suburban Philadelphia, and my dad would always get the chicken platter, and then we would have the pizza, and there would always be like three pieces left over. And then at that night, my sister and I would sneak downstairs and eat the remaining pizza so that it was all gone by the morning. Like it was like this whole vivid thing, and I couldn't have that with my family
Aw,
because my wife can't eat gluten until recently, where she can, and it's because of pizza shops like the Greater Need who recognize that it's way more than just a good pizza with cupping pepperoni. It's about
yes.
bringing families together and creating shared memories over food.
I love it. I love it. This is so good. And I think as business owners, if we can create this kind of story using your framework, and I know you've got one more section of it, but it's like this is really what brings the buyer towards you and helps you choose them or them choosing you over somebody else, or worse, that story of you not having pizza on Friday night because your wife couldn't, and then now you can, right? And there's so much more to this story that actually differentiates yourself to bring those client attraction factors to you and really sets you up for why you're doing business. And I love the storytelling, and you're telling us some great stories. But we got
Yeah.
to get on to the third piece before we
Yeah,
run
so
out of time.
yeah, it's define, right, where you actually identify and discover the story. It's deploy, where you develop a story to business strategy roadmap. And then the last one is ignite. And that is bringing this story to all of your stakeholders,
Mm.
including your employees, so they can become storytellers too.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah, so that third phase is really like about bringing the story into the world and getting it, like igniting your whole team around that story. And one of my favorite stories about the ignite phase is one of the most extraordinary companies I've ever had the benefit of working with is called Textamol. Textamol is a software company based in Frisco, Texas, right near Dallas, and they sell text messaging services as a service, like a SaaS business. They're B2B, and they are literally like in the same business as spammers. So they could be, it's like one of the most hated industries.
Right.
And they have somehow managed to be a purpose-driven text messaging software. They have uh, create on their website a statement of larger purpose that they will never be a part of spamming, that they are part of a mission to help facilitate communication that people want to receive. They work with churches, they work with nonprofits, and they have the most extraordinary corporate culture you've ever seen. And they just transitioned after 18 years to employee owned. And then
Wow. That's amazing.
the craziest part of all of this is they self-identify as what's called an evergreen company. Have you ever heard of the evergreen movement?
Yes.
Yeah, so these they want to be around for 100 years.
I love it. I
And
love it.
so they have
And
this
they called the elephant out, right? All the people that are thinking, "Oh, text company, you're just a bunch of spammers," right? They called the elephant in the room out and said, "No, this is what we're trying to avoid, right? We're trying to take care of that industry and making it, communications the best way that your audience wants to communicate with you."
Yeah, they take like one of the most hated industries and they've built a story-driven business.
Love it.
And the reason that they became employee owned is because they were getting so many acquisition requests. Companies that wanted, because like PE will go in and it'll
Sure.
hoover up 30 businesses like this, and then it will destroy their culture.
Of
And
course.
they had spent 18 years like business artists creating this beautiful culture that was human driven and purpose values led, and they just didn't want it to go away. And so
Mm,
they became part of the Evergreen movement and they became employee owned.
love it.
And it's incredible. They have this incredible document, but you can find on their website, Textamol. It's called the Culture Code,
Mm.
and the Culture Code, the copyright is year 18 of 100.
Oh, love it. Love it. Oh my goodness. Dan, this is so much fun. You have really encouraged me to think on my own story. I mean, my story, I don't know how touching and pulling it is, but I learned from mistakes my parents had. And that evolved in the way I do my business. So now I'm not just helping you grow your company, but I'm helping you prepare to sell. And there's a huge story in that. Now I'm thinking to myself, I really need to articulate that more, because there's so many people that have watched their companies die or their parents' companies dies or whatever. And that's why now I need to storify, I guess if that's a word. Marcia made up word, storify. And have that be really the driving force of the why I do my business.
Yeah.
So this
And
is good.
you went there on your own, and I have often found that when you authentically share, often the way it is received is by them reciprocating.
Mm.
And so maybe another benefit that I haven't emphasized enough is it creates these beautiful, authentic connections.
Ah, exactly. Exactly. Which is what the buyer wants. Really, truly, when they're making a decision and in that Me Too community of businesses that are, large and far and out there, they want somebody that they feel like, oh, well, if I buy from them, I feel better, right? Or, oh, they're right. They're just like, they think like me. or they do something and they want that connection. So that story, as you've explained so many examples, is really that connection point.
Yeah. And I'd love to give you a little homework assignment, you and your listeners, which is I have to imagine that our listeners are having little popping moment, like I call it like popcorn, like little popcorn
Yeah.
moments where they're starting to think about their experiences of childhood, in childhood, and they're starting to begin to connect the dots of how those childhood influences led them to where they are. And so my homework to you all is, you know, and you cannot do this by yourself.
No. Right.
Um, and so my biggest recommendation, yes, you can try to do it with AI and our virtual biographer, or just take a good listener, someone who loves you and who won't judge you, and sit
Yep.
down over a beer or a glass of wine and have them ask you, why is what you're doing, why does it matter, and why is it so important to you?
Oh, I love it.
And who taught you to value that?
I love it. And record it, right?
Oh yeah, definitely record it. Make
Use
sure your
use
phone.
an Otter or one of those third-party recording because you'll miss something or you'll say something and you'll like, that was great, and you can never replicate it again. But yes, I love it.
Yeah. So
Great
so
exercise.
so dig into the we call this the why chain, sort of why do you do what you do? Why does it matter? Why is it important? And keep digging deeper. I believe that every small business is story driven, whether they know it or not. And the reason I believe this is because the very definition of a business is that you create a product or a service that provides value.
Mm, exactly.
You wouldn't be in business if you weren't providing value, and providing value and being story driven is the same thing.
Exactly. Dan, this is great. And I know we could go on for days on these. These stories are so they're already touching me and I know they're touching the audience. So we need to have listeners find you. And so where can listeners get more information about the story driven and how they can really pull that out of themselves? You gave us some great examples, but I want them to find you definitely.
Yeah, thank you so much for that. And thank you for the opportunity. And thank you for all that you're doing for businesses like mine, and kind of fulfilling what your mom and dad taught you, and your mission. The best way for folks who want to learn more is to go to thestorydrivenbusiness.com. And on there, you'll see more information about the work that we do and an opportunity to schedule a call with me. And I give free 30-minute consultations to any story-driven business owner, to help guide them on their journey to becoming more story-driven. So
Love it.
thestorydrivenbusiness.com, and you'll learn more about what we do, our virtual biographer, and you can book a call with me.
Oh, excellent. That's very helpful. And I know that because we don't know where to start. And I know your simple idea of sitting down with a friend and have them ask you questions. If they're not skilled at that or you're not thinking in the way that you should think, you need the expert to help draw it out from you. So I appreciate the fact that you're giving that 30 minutes away to say, hey, let me draw on a couple ideas out of you so we can get the wheels spinning. Right? It's nothing worse than I mean, as a writer, right, looking at that, white page and the cursor flashing at you, and you're like, "Where do I start?" Right? This is the perfect place to start. So, listeners, I would encourage you to take Dan up on his offer and go check it out, and also look at his little AI biographer. I'm sure that's going to be super helpful along the way too. Once you get that initial idea out.
Yeah, I like to think of myself as a mirror, like a
Oh,
storytelling mirror. And so the benefit of me meeting with you or you working with someone is it's very hard to see yourself clearly if you don't look in the mirror.
exactly. Oh, that's good. Oh, that's really good. I hope that gets into your book because that's a really good line. All right, listeners, thanks for tuning in today. I hope you picked up some valuable insight and actionable ideas that can help your business be more profitable. And I know, right, just if you listen to this, I know you're feeling this and I know stories are super important way to communicate the value that you provide and that connection point with your audience. So this is really really good stuff. Okay, so before you go, I thought I'd share one more time. If you're ready to bring in more of the right clients and keep more of what you earned, go grab your free Profit Booster Growth Map. It's going to pinpoint the top 3 moves to grow revenue and stop those profit leaks fast. So go get it anytime at profitbooster.biz. And while you're at it, don't forget to subscribe. You don't want to miss future shows. You can always find Profit with a Plan on any of your favorite podcast players. We're looking forward to more great profitable strategies on next week's show. So until then, make your plans and profit with them. Thank you so very much, Dan. This is great.
Thank you for the opportunity.